What's up everybody? In this video I want to show you guys why I've stopped shooting in auto white balance and how white balance can actually affect your exposure. So colors actually have luminosity values. Warmer colors have higher luminosity values, cooler tones have lower luminosity values. So you guys are going to see here when I actually shift my color balance, it will adjust the actual histogram to the right, to the left. So when you guys see, when I adjust it to a warmer temperature up close to 10,000, you guys can see this histogram move. When I see it and I go down to lower, the 3,000 or so, much cooler white balance, you guys are going to see the histogram actually drop. Now, when you shoot auto white balance, and let's say we got this fiery sky that's coming in right now, I actually starting to get a lot of this color in these clouds. I'm going to take a shot here real quick, but if I leave it in auto white balance, it's going to see all these red warm tones and all this color in the sky. It's going to compensate for that by making the photo more blue, making the white balance more blue. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. I shoot in RAW so I can just correct it in post. That's fine. However, what happens is if you have a really blue photo and you're doing, a proper shooting technique is what's called exposing to the right or saturating your sensor. What you're doing is you're moving that histogram and you're shooting with as much information, as much light in as possible, moving that histogram all the way over to the very right side, just short of overexposing your highlights. That way you're getting the most information in your shadows. That's the correct way to shoot a landscape or to shoot anything really. I mean, obviously there's different things you can do, exposure blending and using filters and things like that, but you always want to expose to the right. You want to have the white balance as neutral as possible. In other words, you want it to match what you're seeing in real life. That way, the whole point of this is to capture the most amount of data, the most accurate data, the most amount of information on the sensor, have the absolute best RAW file to deal with later on in post-processing. The way to do that is shooting in RAW, having a neutral white balance, and exposing to the very right, just short of clipping those highlights. Best way to do it, I think, is to get it as right as possible in camera, get the white balance correct, get the exposure correct, saturate that sensor. That way you have the most latitude in post-processing to really play around with it a little bit. And the good thing about shooting, and you can see on the back of the camera here, is you're actually looking at an 8-bit JPEG of the RAW file on the back of the camera. It's a little bit of a fail-safe. That way, if you notice when you get back onto the computer, your histogram doesn't exactly match what you're seeing on the back of the camera. That way, you get it home and you may have a little bit more information to work with there. I highly recommend shooting white balance in Kelvin, so that way you can just adjust the temperature to exactly what you're seeing. Later on in post-processing, you'll have a lot more wiggle room. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back on the computer and I'm going to show you guys a couple of files and show you exactly what I'm talking about with the white balance. Alright guys, so I got these two images on the computer. The one image I took with the white balance set manually, Kelvin, I set it to 6400, which was the most natural and neutral. And then I also have the one took in auto, which you guys can see is shot at 3950 was the temperature. And yeah, you guys can see extremely blue. Now what I've done over here on the right side is just brought down the highlights so I can see some of the detail in this shot here, and I did it on both of them. So that's all I'm going to do to these, just so I can show you guys kind of the color a little bit. All right, so I brought them up side by side. You can see there's an extreme difference here. So if I want to kind of clean up this white balance and make it the same, I believe it was 6400, so I'll go ahead and 6400, and you see that's a little bit closer, and then I believe +6 on this one, so let's go with +6. And so that's pretty close, but what I can see, I can tell you guys right now, if we look at them really close, is you can see a lot of contrast, and some of the warmer colors have a lot less saturation in them. What happens is when you take a blue photo and you add warmth to it, what you're doing is you're removing the naturally cooler colors, you're removing some of the saturation from it. And same thing what happens when you shoot with a warmer white balance, you try and cool it down, you start removing some of the warm natural saturation from those warmer colors too. So you can see here it's not exactly the same. You can see especially in this barrel cactus in the front here, you can see a lot more color contrast. You can see a lot more contrast in general. So you can see just a little bit of difference here in the overall color. I want to show you guys kind of what you can do, what the white balance does. As I start to adjust the slider here, you're going to see, I want you to watch here the histogram and watch how it changes as I move the slider. You can see it physically changes the histogram. I mean, obviously I'll never go up to 50,000, but there is a difference, and then obviously cooling it down will change it as well. The blue histogram, you can see it really starts to blow it out. It takes your original RGB histogram and just really flattens it, and it brings it down or up just depending on which way you go. So it does affect the histogram, and like I said, guys, the whole point of this is to get the most accurate raw file possible, the most information, the most data collected, the most light collected onto the sensor. That way you have the most room to work in your raw photo when you get into post-processing. So it really does make a difference if you do shoot your white balance, in manual, put it on Kelvin. I've been shooting auto white balance for such a long time that I understand it's something you've been doing. It's raw, so you can change it without too much issues, and I understand that. I just wanted to bring this to you guys' attention if you didn't know this already. All right, so after a few adjustments here and there, this is my final image, so hope you guys enjoy that. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're releasing videos every Monday morning, 7 o'clock Arizona time, and in the next set of videos, we will be in Rome, Italy, so look out for that. Chris and I will both be there and just exploring the city. So thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.